virtues of Trumpism, the cynical populism, the brazen readiness to profit from high office, the nativist and racist taunts have been antecedents in the American politics. But Trump's open willingness to ask foreign governments to dig up dirt on political opponents has been an idiosyncratic aspect of his rise to power. At a press conference in July of 2016, when he was the Republican nominee, he invited Russia to get a hold of Hillary Clinton's emails and leak them to the press. This past June, George Stephanopoulos asked him what he thought his campaign should do if foreigners, if Russia, if China, if somebody else offered information on his opponents. Should he accept it or should he call the FBI? Trump allowed that he might do both, adding, if somebody called for a country such as Norway, we have information on your opponent, I think I'd want to hear it. So pretty much his answer was both. We now know that Trump spoke to Stephanopoulos. He and Guiliani, his personal lawyer, were deeply in a vigorous effort to persuade the government of the Ukraine to conduct investigations that might rake up some muck on Joe Biden. Fast forward a second. What we have determined, though, these are my words now, not anybody else's. Since about 2014, the Ukraine had been in turmoil, and Manafort had benefited $12.7 million off the regime of Yanukovych, which was the Russian-backed regime that the Russians wanted to maintain. But in 2015, the U.S. and also its European allies sought to get rid of a prosecutor general named Viktor Shokin. And it hasn't been determined if that particular individual, Viktor Shokin, was soft on corruption. It hasn't been determined that they wanted to eliminate him because of ties to Hunter Biden's dealings with Burisma. His son, Joe Biden's son. Now, this article does say that it was questionable when Biden was a standing vice president why Hunter Biden would want to serve on a energy board called Burisma. But this particular organization or company, Burisma Holdings, had ties to a Ukrainian oligarch named Mykola Zlochevsky. There's been many sources that have been examined, and it still has not been determined if this particular individual that was Shokin, who was asked to investigate that Burisma Holdings by Guiliani, was ousted in March of 2016 because he was soft on corruption or there was some other ties. I will bring the co-host in a minute, but the thing that some conservatives argue about, including John, is that Biden wanted to hold funding for loan guarantees in Ukraine. He wanted not to release them until this character, Shokin, was out of office. They did not want him managing that aspect of the Ukrainian government. So I'm not going to go into any more heavy detail, even though I wrote some more information about that. But my main point is this from a political science strategy. Unless we're on the inside of the U.S. government and we're dealing with these individuals face-to-face, there's a lot of room for opportunity in Eastern Europe. But we have to keep in mind the big perspective that the European Union has also tried to protect the Ukraine from Russian encroachment, and all nations failed at Russia annexing Crimea. So with that, I'll bring in the host. Good evening, John.
And greetings to you, Jane Hoffman.
Hi, I hope your night's going well. And now we have Ben on the line. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening.
My introduction was a little rocky, mainly just from the perspective that I'm trying to tie in some certain concepts that, despite Trump's individual actions in trying to persuade a government to provide certain amounts of information, what is the overall objective, and is he afraid of losing, and what has he done in his presidency to strengthen certain ties with nations and alienate others? Now, I heard an article today, the Secretary of Defense, Mark Esker, or something like that, saying that they're focusing the next couple of years on China and trying to detract from the Middle East. So I'm just trying to find out what you guys are thinking regarding Trump's particular foreign policy initiatives in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. But I just thought I'd begin the introduction in a certain way based on an article that I read. Who would like to go first?
Oh, I don't mind discussing a little. I guess there's many issues involved here. First of all, I guess the question I have to ask you, Jane, do you think that the Russians hacked the DNC server and leaked that to Julia Assange at WikiLeaks and started this whole Russian collusion?
Well, in the article that I read, it said that there was, here, let me just read one thing, okay? Trump concluded that the Ukraine was conspiring with Hillary Clinton and the Democrats to try to defeat him. For reasons that are not easy to fathom, he also came to endorse a conspiracy theory holding that Ukraine harbors a computer saver used by the DNC in 2016. He said they are terrible people. Trump said privately of the Ukrainians as recently as May to the New York Times. They are all corrupt and they try to take me down. So, I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
I like their wordplay there. They're accusing Trump of saying they're all bad people, meaning Ukrainians. What he meant was
he does talk in generalities. Like, saying this is very, very bad.
But if you're,
and words like that.
If you're being an honest journalist, you would know the difference. The ones that are dishonest, they try to just grab that narrative and hold onto it with their story.
I guess my basic point is no matter where the servers came from, I do think that both sides are probably somewhat guilty. Like, nobody in the DNC wanted their emails exposed, but on the other hand, it didn't stop Trump and Giuliani from attempting to use the Ukrainians against Joe Biden. So both are guilty.
Well, here's a few things to consider. You're looking at facts. The facts are the hack that was sent out was from, they say Guccifer, but actually it took 87 seconds. It was 1,976 megabytes, or 22.7 megabytes per second. A funny thing, I have a friend at work who's a gamer, and gamers like hacking. Like the ones that are really into it, like they like, oh hey, can we get into the FBI database? Can we get into government programs? Can we get into Bank of America? And some of them do it. Now, of course, there's a high risk. If you get caught, you're dead in the waters. But some people love this. Some are criminal because they want to sell these things and make money, and others just want to do it just because they're kind of like little anarchists. But the point is, I always tell him this. Now he's 24. He's a gamer. He's not he's an atheist. He doesn't care about politics whatsoever. And he stopped me and said, "You can't do it that fast online. You can't hack someone in 87 seconds and put that kind of information on there. Try downloading a Netflix movie. And watch how long you're sitting there, right? Looking at the wheel spin. This was done in 87 seconds. It was inside the DNC. Now, if you research, you'll see that Julian Assange has stated since 2000, whenever, that he didn't get the WikiLeaks information. He didn't get it from the Russians. He's been saying that all along. That's how come he's under arrest, and they want to.
I don't think he did either.
Correct. Now this is where the whole thing comes about, that the Russians did it, and that the Russians fed Trump this information. Well, there's several problems with this. One is that this original story of Russian collusion working with oligarchs, that came from 2007, Glenn Simpson writing for the Wall Street Journal. He later on left there, and except it was involving McCain, involving, let's see, who else? Let me check this out here. Let me get the names straight. Oh, Oleg Deripaska, we've talked about him. Dmitry Firtash, Bob Dole. This is the whole Russian conspiracy collusion theory, and it's involving McCain. Now, Glenn Simpson went on later to form Fusion GPS and was contracted by DNC and Hillary Clinton, and they just took out the names Dole and McCain, and they put in Donald Trump. They also did a version with Ted Cruz, but that hasn't come to the public yet. That will be coming soon. But the point is, Prosecutor General Sergei Lechchenko was stunned when our Ukrainian ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch, gave a list of people we should not prosecute. The list included the founder of the Anti-Act group and 2 members of parliament who vocally supported the group's anti-corruption reform agenda. Now, the thing is, the Ukrainian law enforcement was probing in a group that was co-founded or co-funded by Obama administration and George Soros. And it was collaborating with the FBI agents investigating Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort. Business activities.
But you know what, Don, can I just mention something before I lose my place? How do you say his name? Lutsenko?
Lutsenko, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, he was an acting prosecutor. He had the same job as that other guy who was canned, Shokin. He was a prosecutor general. But they were in the midst of their own election, too. You know, Zelensky, an outsider, a television star, won by a landslide, and they had a lot on their plate. And also, Manafort had received $12.7 million in payments from the Yanukovych regime. So just think that if Barack Obama had been elected with a campaign manager who got $12 million from another Eastern European bloc country, would you question that? But you don't question it because Trump was elected.
I question a lot about Obama.
No, what I'm saying is that you guys are bitching about this aspect of the Ukraine, but Trump has made 2 overtures.
And you're ignoring a lot. You're ignoring a lot.
I'm not ignoring it. I have a few questions for John, actually. All I'm saying is that Manafort had dirty ties with the Russian-backed regime, Yanukovych, and he prospered greatly from there. I'm not saying that him and Trump were even loyalty aligned, but Manafort jumped on the opportunity to work for Trump, whether he was loyal or not, but he still had dirty ties. And my question for John is that the person or entity going by the moniker Guccifer 2.0 claimed on WordPress on a particular blog that they acted alone, and it had no ties to the Ukrainians.
And what I'm saying is that Guccifer's claims are impossible. It's like me saying, Guccifer saying, oh, I also flew to Mars, and on the way back from the sun, I turned around and I came back to the U.S., and here are the Russian, this is the hack for Trump. And you go, that's impossible. See, what I'm saying is, it's a lie. You can't even say Russians colluded. This is the thing, they're all talking about the Russian collusion. It's a lie. It's impossible. The Russians couldn't have hacked it. It had to be inside. Someone had to take a flash drive, get on the computer, stand there, pop it in 87 seconds.
Right, even Bill Binney verified that. It's impossible. That transatlantic download speed is not possible.
So that's a big problem right there, is that the whole investigation of 2 or 3 years, it's impossible, Jay. That's what I'm saying. It's not even we got an issue here.
I guess my main question is this, regardless of the hacks by Cozy Bear and Fancy Bear, which was technically the...
speed bump over that. You can't speed bump over that.
Okay, I'm saying regardless of those particular hacks...
The facts.
Why did... I don't want to go all the way back to 2016, but why is Donald Trump tapping the Ukraine? First, his son asked in Russia for dirt on Hillary, and then Trump recently asked the Ukraine for help to downgrade Biden. Why is he scared?
You misstated that. He was approached. Don Jr. was approached by an operative who offered information on Hillary Clinton.
I know, but
there's a big difference.
My main thing is does Donald Trump have paranoia like Nixon, where he feels like he's not secure in his popularity, so he has to ask other people about his opponents, which technically in the Constitution you can't ask for in governments for stuff on their opponents, on your political opponents.
He's publicly clowning because he's not going behind in a secret closet room going, hey, Putin, I have your phone number. I can call you. In front of a crowd, he's mocking. They've already made these claims. It's not like something new. They've already said that, Hillary destroyed all these emails, blah, blah. He jokes in front of 30,000 people, right? Like, hey, maybe the Russians should look this up. Maybe the Chinese should look this up. He's throwing it right in their face. He's saying, is he really seriously approaching them and making an offer, a quid pro quo with the Russians? It's like he's joking about, just like.
But he did in the Ukraine.
Son of a bitch, she got
Joe
fired.
Biden admitted that. Joe Biden admitted his crime like he was proud of it. And there's something that you're missing, Jane. If you're saying that there's a constitutional problem with asking a foreign government for information on a political opponent, then what do you call Christopher Steele's dossier?
That wasn't an invitation. It was presented to him the same way. That
was paid for by the DNC. Paid for.
Prove
it. For phony information.
I'd like for you to prove it.
Oh, sure. It went through. Fusion GPS, who was hired or paid by Perkins Coie and the DNC, and which is Hillary Clinton. There's no denying that. It's not a arguable like, oh, we didn't do this. It's like, just look them up. Using GPS. Who paid them?
That's why I'm glad you brought that up, Jane, because if you want to be unbiased about it, then you have to admit it. You have to admit that. But that was ignored. That was ignored by you and everybody else in the mainstream media. They didn't even cover it. But there's a close call with Trump.
But you guys are in denial too, because the July 25th phone call that Trump made to Zelensky, and then it later unraveled that. But he didn't want to until he got information.
If he didn't want to, he wouldn't have. He damn sure wanted to. He's like, they're going to spin this out of control. I'm just going to release the damn phone call. Let the American people see
I'm
how
talking
bad
about the money, not the phone call.
Well, he has that prerogative. That's not a crime. He did not make an offer.
It's wrong.
Like a drug deal. You have to make the offer.
It is wrong to go to a
to
foreign government for information about an opponent.
Wrong or illegal?
It's illegal.
He did not. Wait a second. He did not state. As you know, there's 11 testimonies. The only one that said that he thought there was quid pro quo was Sutherland. And they asked him, well, wait a second, what were the president's words? He said, let me be clear on this. I want nothing. No quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky to do the right thing. He says, well, why did you come up with this, as Mark Meadows? He said, well, I just presumed it. What? The point is, he never made the offer. If you don't do this, I won't do this. Like, you have to give me money, then I will give you or you have to give me this information, then I will give you the money. You have to follow the facts, how it will stand up in court.
So basically, word for word, what Joe Biden said he did on live TV.
Joe Biden.
I saw the clip today. He said that he wasn't going to release the money until they got rid of Chauvin, or whatever his name was.
Yeah, the one looking into Burisma.
And if you listen to the whole interview, he says, you know what, I was told I had to go to Ukraine. We all got our different tasks and assignments, and they gave me Ukraine. And I'm like, okay, I got to go over there. I got to take care of this. And, it just happens to be my son works there in Ukraine for Burisma. Now, another backdrop to this story is George Soros wrote a sizable check from his personal funds in fall 2017 to a new group, Democracy Integrity Project. It was started by former FBI agent and staffer Daniel Jones to continue investigation and research into foreign interference in elections, American and European. Democrats Democracy Integrity Project asked Soros, do not divulge the size of his contribution. DIP hired Fusion GPS, the same firm that was paid by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC to create the infamous Steele Dossier alleging Trump-Russian collusion. So let's get this straight. The first dossier went to McCain, then FBI. The second dossier or scheme went to Nellie Orr and Bruce Orr, backdoor to the FBI. And then the third time the dossier went to the press and was leaked. So you have this triangulation of, we got the dossier going from McCain to the FBI. We've got the dossier going to Nellie Orr at Fusion GPS, backdooring to Bruce Orr, and then you got the press leaking it. So all three are going, oh, we got all this dirt on Trump. It's the same fake dossier that they used to get the FISA warrant. And what were their targets? Trump, his children, Guiliani, Christopher Page, Papadopoulos, Manafort.
Well, yeah, it doesn't really matter. Once they get Carter Page, they have everyone. It's the two-hop system, and Bongino explains that really well. The two-hop system is you can get two contacts from the original target, and all of their contacts and all of their contacts, and they can just spread from there. And they had 16 denials before they got the FISA warrant.
Okay, I'm trying to look something up, so could you guys keep talking a minute?
Excellent. So I guess there's a couple issues. Now, here's a really big issue. The Democrats are saying, and Pelosi's been stating this over and over, and Nadler and Schumer and Schiff, is that we need to subpoena witnesses to get the facts. There's facts, evidence. We need to get the truth. And they said, so when this goes to the Senate, we need to subpoena and get this information, because otherwise it takes cover-up. They're using very uniform language. It's a cover-up. It's deeply disturbing. So, but here's the problem. They impeach the president without getting the facts. If you the point. They're presenting a case to impeach the president based on facts, and now they're saying, Senate, you need to give the facts so we can proceed with impeachment. They aren't supposed to hand over impeachment until they have the facts. There's an issue. Now, Rand Paul, what he's saying is he wants to force the issue of Hunter Biden testifying, Nancy Pelosi testifying, Adam Schiff testifying. What did they know? Their communication. The Republican vote against impeachment was 195 to 0. And 3 of those were defectors from the Democratic Party. So this isn't a bipartisan situation. This is one party with one mission. And listen to all the candidates. We have to remove Donald Trump. Bloomberg said, it's not about winning, it's about beating Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi just stated just a couple of days ago, the president will be removed by election or impeachment. She says he will be removed. That's her goal. It's not about the budget or about the truth. He will be removed. And that's what they're trying to do. So, Trump is playing them into this angle because they will subpoena them, and then if they do have to testify, first thing he's going to ask Adam Schiff is, do you know the whistleblower? And second of all, why did you give the speech in front of Congress? And he's going to say, well, it was a parody, and I don't know the whistleblower. Well, how come the whistleblower works for you? And at that point, he's facing jail time. So that's why that's why Nancy wanted to know what's going to be the arena, what will be the witnesses, what questions can be asked. They're trying to figure out in advance before they jump into the frying pan. Any comment to that, Ben?
Yeah, I do have I'm going to let Ben go next, but I do have a comment. John Bolton wants to be a witness or testifier in the Senate trial, but Trump has officially tried to block certain people from participating. But I was trying to look up something on the Constitution, and in the Constitution and the Federalist Papers, which are the essays that created the framework for establishing the Constitution, in number 68, Alexander Hamilton said, the desire of foreign powers to gain an improper ascendant in our councils is a source of corruption and one of the most deadly adversaries of Republican government. In other words, determined effort would be necessary on the part of the U.S. government to forestall intrusions from self-interested outsiders. Now, it's my understanding that Zelensky was not eager to give up dirt on Joe Biden, but he was just trying to appease Trump in order to obtain the aid that they needed.
Well, there's several things that you mentioned there about John Bolton. Now, why do they want John Bolton to testify? Well, they could have gone to court and fought for that, but they said, no, we have to hurry this national security. The country is at risk. We have to run this through as fast as we can. We don't want to subpoena McFadden. We don't want to subpoena, Bolton. And there's 4 or 5 other people. We don't want to subpoena Rudy Giuliani, and on. Because how come? Because we have to do this right now. And now they get ready to present it. It's like, well, wait a second, we can't do that. We want to find out if you're going to subpoena him later. It's like we have all the time in the world. We can. In fact, the only reason Nancy's releasing it now is because Congress